So this is the broadcast tool here, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see in all its glory. You can see the notation. You can also see the engine evaluation next to each move, and also how long they spend.
What I like is you can make your own moves on the board. You can check the alternatives to what the players did. And even for the moves you make, you get the computer evaluation here.
Fantastic.
I think you get it quicker and better as a premium member, such as yours truly. What I also like, there is a chat function. You can exchange things with people from all over the world. If you want to see something else, let's say you're watching a tournament and you want to see all the games at once, no problem displaying. I have no idea how many games there are, like 128 games at the same time. Can do even more. This is a team competition. You click on multi-board.
That's beautiful.
You can see all the 8 games going on at once.
You can see the games and standings, which
What we got? I'll click around. Games and standings here.
Yeah. Analysis, if we click on that tab,
Let's click on it.
You can see that it's a great little graphical illustration. The red line is 0, that is the absolute even mark. And if the white bars go up, the further up they go, the bigger the advantage. And the black bars show a black advantage.
Then there is a database, and here we get the alternatives. And if we click on a move in the database, bam, it gets played on the board.
Fantastic. And then the PGN can even be downloaded.
I like that feature.
Yeah.
Whatever tournament or game you're following, you click it and you open it in the program of your choice.
Yeah, and one of the great things I like to see as well is when we get a video from the playing hall. I like to see them in their seats, nervous, you feel the tension, you feel like you're there, don't you?
Chess is really becoming a spectator's internet sport.
Great that we can see that. I also love to see the fact that we can get in some of our friends to join us during the broadcast, and it's all interactive. That's what we love. And
a lot of overview functions there.
A lot of great functions there, ladies and gentlemen. Make sure you take advantage of all of them. Let's get back to the commentary.
Keep tweeting us, hashtag C24Live. We love to hear from you. Ask us anything mainly about Lawrence life, but if you have other questions, they're also welcome.
Also send us anything you like about Jan. Hashtag C24Live.
Absolutely.
Hello everyone, that was my me playing Tactics Frenzy, and now in this live analysis I'm going to share my victory against Shahriar Mamedyarov from Baku Chess Olympiad 2016. And this was quite an important victory for Indian team and for me personally. As it was held in Baku, of course, Azerbaijan team prepared very well, and they were in great spirit. And both Indian team as well as Azerbaijan team were leading along with some other teams. And I get playing against Shahriar is always great fun, as often he plays such interesting chess and always comes up with fantastic opening ideas. So it's not an easy task. I was preparing quite hard for the event, along with my teammates, and even before the event. So here Shahriar went for d4. Of course, he can play e4, c4, or anything. He has experience in various openings. D4 I consider to be his main weapon in 2016 before Baku Chess Olympiad. After d4, d5, until that moment I was playing various openings. But for this game, I thought to keep it simple. But against Shahriar, it is never a simple game. It's always going to be some crazy tactics and stuff. So I decided to play. I wanted to avoid the exchange love. I mean, probably for no reason. But of course, I could have started with c6 and reached the same position as in the game. Knight f3, c6. So here, of course, white can play bishop g5 or e3, queen b3, or anything. But Shahriar goes for quite dangerous setup for both sides. I mean, it's not like white is risking. This is a nice pawn sacrifice. Of course, both sides need to know a lot of theory in order to play such risky chess from white side. Also, if black is not aware of fine points, he can end up worse in no time. And here, black can play just bishop e7, knight bd7. Let me draw some arrows, and to keep the position close. Okay, maybe white gains some advantage, in the sense, if game transposes into Catalan. But I want I prepared for this, and I went for the I accepted the sacrifice. And here, some of the moves are forcing, so I don't want to go into details. um, Here black can also consider playing knight bd7. The point is, black is delaying b5 only after a4. Black can play a5, b6, and protect the c4 pawn with bishop a6. Of course, this is a different variation, which is not important at the moment. So b5 and short castle. So it's, I mean, black is up a pawn, but white has a lot of compensation. It's not at all easy. I mean, um, we will see how complicated it gets in a while. So bishop b7, knight e5. Idea is to capture knight b5, c takes b5, bishop b7. So a6, defending the b5 pawn. B3. So this is the way white is saying that, look, I have an excellent compensation, because my king is safe. I have bishop on g2. My pieces are developed, and I don't mind being a pawn down, but a4 and opening up the queen side could be quite unpleasant. So c takes b3. White can play even queen b3, but a takes b3 is also quite interesting. And although black is up a pawn, it is quite difficult for black to move the develop the queen side knight, especially because c6 is hanging. So I decided to play b4, which is not a new move. This has been already played before, and I thought it would surprise. This is not the main theory, and I didn't expect that he would be so well prepared for this game, and to anticipate that I would go for this variation. Knight e4, and knight takes e4, bishop e4, and c3. Of course, c takes b3 would be really bad here after a takes b3. and white would simply develop bishop b2, queen c2, and put pressure on c6. It won't be easy for black to castle at first, and also I do not see the point of playing b4 and then taking c takes b3. So c3. So black is behind development of his pawn up, but at least the pawn on c3 is protected, and this is, let's say, the main point or main trump of black in this position. Otherwise, everything is bad for black. And white plays a3, and I see some comments, and that's why I was laughing. So a3, a5, and a takes b4. Here I prepared before the game a takes b4, which seems quite logical, but at the same time, I'm sure Shahriar was playing so fast, and it was obvious to me that he was probably prepared for a takes b4, which is normal. But then I started to think here, and I was wondering, why am I not developing my bishop on f8 and capturing the pawn on b4? And for a long time, I was like, well, let me see if there is some direct refutation. Maybe I was missing something. And then I started to calculate here a little bit, and I didn't see any direct refutation. Well, maybe he had some novelty, it could be. So I decided to take the pawn with the bishop on f8. Later on, I analyzed the game, and after a takes b4, rook takes a8 could be slightly unpleasant, which I believe he was prepared for, as I expected. So bishop b4, and here he started to think a bit, and then finally he went queen d3. And of course, here, like, for after 4 years, when I check with the engine, this is 0.00, as in the case of all the positions. And there are some nice tries from black side. Of course, knight d7 is still not possible because of bishop c6. Bishop takes c6, knight takes c6, and followed by knight b4. Therefore, I have to move the knight from e5, and f6 f6 could be nice, but issue is bishop g6 followed by knight f7. So therefore, I thought the logical way to proceed is to place the queen on e7, so I can play f6 here. So I played queen e7. I was feeling not so confident while playing the whole setup after queen d3, but I thought at least I managed to take Shahriar out of his comfort zone. And it's if you fell into some opening preparation in um, in such a complicated variation, it can be really difficult to most likely you lose. So queen e7, and here bishop h7. This is a move which I briefly considered, but I didn't really take it very serious. Probably I should have. I thought, okay, there are so many options for white to play, and this is the last move I thought he would go for. Simply, black is not able to castle here because of bishop h7. Black needs to play f5 and waste some more time in order to castle. Even then, white's position seem quite nice, so he can play various moves. And after bishop h7, here I started to think, and of course g6 is losing, or at least bad, because of f takes g6. Queen takes g6. Yeah, probably it is losing. So king d8 is bishop g5. And after king f8, I guess bishop h6 is possible, but there are many other ways to get advantage in this position. So g6 is just bad, and apart from that, I didn't see any other moves. And after knight d7, which I played, there was one move which I could play, which is c5. Since the bishop is not on e4, there is queen b5 doesn't really help much. So after c5, white is going to play bishop e4, and then black plays short castle, bishop b7, queen b7. So this is another option for me to play, which I kind of considered, but somehow I felt black is the position is quite balanced, but black needs to be careful here after d takes c5, queen c7. But when I analyzed with the engine, it appears like it's more or less equal. And instead of bishop h7, my move was knight d7. So after knight d7, of course, bishop e4. If knight takes d7, queen takes d7. At some point, c5 will come, and without the knight, black is having upper hand because of the pawn on c3. So therefore, he takes control of this diagonal, and bishop e4, knight takes e5, d takes e5, rook d8, queen f3, and if you guys want to guess which move I played, I can give you a minute or two. So as black, which move would you play here? The c6 pawn is hanging. Okay. So here, white is threatening to take on c6, bishop c6, bishop c6, queen c6, and after a move like short castle, uh, things can be quite dangerous, as either h4 or queen h5, since there is no pawn on h7. So therefore, I played. Okay, someone found the move. Uh, so it's rook d5, um, and I saw this move before playing the whole setup of knight d7, and here I realized that rook on d5 is doing an excellent job, and also whenever white captures the rook on d5, he takes d5, and this nice pawns on c3, d5, c6 with a5 should give black sufficient compensation for the exchange. And somehow I when I saw this, I thought I had to play this. I mean, maybe with precise play, white might be able to get an advantage, but it is extremely complicated, and it's difficult to play over the board for white, in my opinion. So here, Shah went queen g4, um, and I think the best, or let's say more logical, is to play bishop f4 and not to take bishop d5 ever, because that gives me my e6 pawn to reach d5, and then I can play d4, c5, and then the bishop on b7 becomes a monster. And after c5, just queen g4. I was considering many ideas like to play f5, e takes f6, g takes f6, threatening to play f5 here. King f8 is also fine. But queen g4, queen g4 is normal move, and after king f8, I don't know why he took on d5, but from practical point of view, I think it's not a great idea. But on the other hand, if white plays bishop f4, already I can think of playing f5, e takes f6, g takes f5, f6, and with the idea f5, it can be quite dangerous after bishop c6, c takes bishop d5, c takes d5, with the idea of queen h7 or e5 d4. So I don't know, computer finds some brilliant play, and but black is worse or something. But when I was playing, I felt pretty confident that the bishop on once bishop on b7 gets into play, it's going to be quite difficult for white to defend this position. And maybe that's the reason why he played bishop d5, e takes d5, and since the bishop is on b7, white does not have queen c8 check anytime soon. Rook a4, and here the idea of white is to somehow limit c5 d4. So something like at some point rook b4, bishop e3, bishop c5 to to get a winning opposite color bishop endgame. C5, I had to follow the plan of c5 d4 and bring the queen to c6. I don't know if I can draw. Yeah, so queen to c6, and this should be great compensation for black, if not better position. So bishop a3, since I played c5, white wants to play bishop a3, take on b4, and slowly clarify the situation about the pawns. As if he waits longer, as I mentioned, it can be quite it's hard to defend or the pawn role here. So bishop a3 and rook h6, and I really like the move rook h6, since of course I cannot castle, and in fact this king on f8 is doing a great job, and rook will come to either e6 or depending, maybe h6 is good, but in general this rook needs to come into play, or else white's rook on a1, a4, and some threats like rook a8 will happen. So rook h6 is something which I really liked while playing. Bishop takes b4, a takes b4, and here rook fa1 threatening rook a8 check. Bishop takes bishop a8, rook a8, and black is forced to give the queen. So therefore, queen e8. The idea is to bring the queen to c6, as I mentioned, but this is nicer way than queen c7, c6, in which case rook a8 would be winning for white. So queen e8, queen c6, then to have d4, and maybe king will just stay on f8, as everything is protected here. So rook a7, asking some questions. This bishop on b7 is most likely annoying white here. Queen c6, I'm just following my idea to play d4 and maybe c4, b3, queen g5. Since there is no rook a8 here, but white needs to bring his queen into play. Rook e6, as queen d8 was threatened. Let me make an arrow. So rook e6, queen d8, rook e8, queen d6, and king g8. So here, instead of king g8, queen d6 leads nowhere, as e takes d6, and cannot defend the bishop on b7. So therefore king g8. And here I remember that many, during the game or after the game, many players or many of my colleagues were explaining, that rook b7 is a mistake which was played in the game, but there are other moves like rook 1 a5 and other ways to play. But what is interesting is after, um, let's say, after f4 d4, it is black who is winning. In fact, uh, the idea is after queen takes c6, bishop c6, rook c7, and anyone wants to find the winning move for black here? Yeah, yes, yes. So yeah, I see already they found. So c4, and now you can see the power of the pawns here, and bishop is not important here, and black is just winning. Well, maybe I should check with the engine once again, but after I made d4, the evaluation changes instantly. And another move which white could play is rook 1 a5, um, and here after c2, white can go rook a1. I mean, this is all computer defense. I mean, I definitely didn't see it. Rook c5 is not working because of c1 check, and black will remain piece up. So rook a1, and now d4. I think this was the suggestion, when Live Engine was suggesting that white is doing very well here. But once again, queen c6 is necessary. Bishop takes c6 and rook c1. And here rook e5, rook a2, because after rook c2, black can play d3. After e takes d3, rook e1 is checkmate. So rook a2 and bishop e4, and here only black can be better, and maybe it's not winning for black yet, as white is going to recapture the pawn on c2. But this is and the best move for white here is f3. Not an easy move to make, when you have like just five minutes, or maybe he was short on time, so it's normal that he missed f3. Here he went for rook b7, which he thought was equalizing instantly, but after queen takes b7, queen c5, rook takes c5, he rook c8 doesn't lead anywhere, as white can play just queen d4 or anything, because after c2, rook c1 is there. After rook e5, rook a7, I think he felt that white is holding here, as rook c1 is coming next. But here is a nice finishing move. If you want, you can find the winning move here. There's a nice trick. Yeah, yeah, that's right. So it is indeed d4 because after rook e2, white would just take rook b7 or queen a7, just queen a7, and black is not queening yet. So the move is d4. So whoever found it, congrats. So the idea is the rook on a7 is protected by the queen on c5. So therefore, after queen e5, queen a7, and it should be winning as the pawn on c3 decides. Just need queen somewhere on c8, and c2 here should c2 c2 c1. So he thought queen d4 is holding, and so what is the final idea of d4? There is a force winning move here, and yes, yes, that's correct. So rook d5 is yeah, yeah, I see. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Rook d5 is the right move. Since queen cannot go to e3 because of rook d1 checkmate, and white is forced to take on b7, rook d4, and now uh, white played king g2. So uh, once again, there is force winning variation for black. Um, c2 would lead rook c7. c2 is rook c7, and you cannot, um, you know, push the pawn. If rook d2, then rook b4. So rook c4, no, rook d7, I can take rook d7. So rook c4 is leading to a draw. Let me explain how. B takes c4, c2, rook b4, and queen. And it might seem that this is winning, but if white manages to get pawn to h4, e3, and rook to d4, then it is just a fortress. Black cannot make any progress here. It doesn't matter if white has this pawn on c4 or not. So therefore, rook c4 is interesting, but it's not winning. Yeah, rook d1 is the right move here. As after rook d1, the point is white cannot capture on b4 because of c2, and c1 cannot be stopped here. And after rook c7, which is necessary in order to stop black from playing c2, um, uh, well, actually he resigned, so I will make the moves. So rook b1 is the idea, and it doesn't matter what the white is going to play. Black's next move will be bishop, uh, sorry, rook b1, rook b3, then rook b2, c2, b3, rook b1, and c1. This cannot be stopped. White doesn't have enough moves in order to stop this, and this is where my opponent resigned, um, uh, and I won the game, and Vidit also won his game from black against forgot the name, but we won 3-1. That was a very important victory for the team, and then we had a wonderful Olympiad. And my next game My next game is also going to be from Baku Chess Olympiad, and this is against Sergei Karyakin in round eight, uh, which uh, which was quite important, and this was his last event before playing at the World Chess Championship match in New York. So I was fortunate to play both Sergei Karyakin, challenger, and Magnus Carlsen in the same event. So that's why this Olympiad is quite special. We finished fourth, but I thought we did quite well. So this is against Sergei Karyakin. Of course, he was quite well prepared for the game, and in general he was ready for the match. So I think it's you cannot underestimate the preparation when a player is preparing for a match. So I had to find some way to keep the game going here. And after I mean we of course I knew that Berlin was the opening choice for Sergei, so I played Italian, seat, short castle, knight f6. Okay, so, the opening moves are not so important here. As In 2016, A5 was relatively new. This is the idea which I would say Sergey started. I mean, in this, maybe this is one of the first top level game for A5. And although he lost this game, I think later on people understood the point, and slowly theory developed, and A5 is indeed one of the main ideas for black here. And here I was already surprised because I was not ready. I was no- I had no idea about the A5 move. And then I start to think like, okay, what could be the reason? Is black going to play A5, or just to just have the pawn on A5? Then I decided to stop A4 by playing bishop B3 and rook e8. As black wants to play bishop e6 and d5, this is the normal plan in such structures. Knight bd2, bishop e6, and after bishop a4, stopping b5, also threatening to play d4 and d5. So here, Sergey played bishop a7. I do not know if he was ready for this or he forgot his preparation. But later on, queen b8 is the main theory, after which queen b8, d4, e takes d4, c takes d4, b5, d takes c5, b takes a4. So this is the way black should play in this particular position. And after queen a4, queen b7, black has a really nice counter play for the pawn. So he went bishop a7. To me, it seemed a little bit strange, because with bishop on, I mean, white's threat is d4, yes, but also white has easy idea to bring the knight to g3, followed by d4, which we are going to see in the game. Knight f1. Once bishop went to a7, there is no need to try to get d4. Rook b8. Yeah, here is the issue for black. So ideally, he would like to get b5, a4, and at some point d5, or even bring the knight to e7, knight to g6, and then play c6, d5. But since the rook is on e8, he can't move the knight to e7, and therefore he played rook b8. So after rook b8, I had a choice to play just knight g3. Okay, let black get chance to play b5, bishop c2, and d5. But here I thought the move which I played, which is bishop b5, could be quite nice. The reason, black can't really move the knight from c6 to a7 to move this bishop on b5. And since another reason obviously is because the rook is already on e8. So in a strange way, black's pieces are a bit stuck here on the queen side, and on the other hand, white simply goes knight g3 and d4 next moves. So that's when he decided to play bishop d7, and probably rook f8 is other move, but it looks as a bit, it looks strange to play rook e8 and then go rook f8. So if we count the moves, I went bishop c4, then I went bishop b3 and bishop a4 and bishop b5. So I moved too many, I moved the same piece several times. And in the meantime, black got rook e8, bishop e6, bishop a7, rook b8. So he could move different pieces, but it really didn't help, as rook on e8 is coming under the pin, and therefore this strange idea which I played is not worse, and I would say it's quite interesting, and therefore I played knight g3, 97. Here I was briefly considering to play bishop c4, but then I thought it's too much, since I already moved the same bishop quite many times. And of course, since white is able to play d4, it's time to just take bishop d7, queen takes d7, and d4. So one of the things that after e takes d4, c takes d4, white has nice position, because knight on g3, knight on f3 is nicely placed, and e5 can happen, or just positionally bishop d2, queen c2, and prepare for e5 later on. And of course, that is the reason why black want to first bring his pieces before capturing e takes d4, knight g6, and bishop e3. So bishop e3 idea is to take on e5, and after bishop takes e3, e takes f6. So therefore, why black must choose, if he wants to play bishop, if he wants to support the bishop on b6 or rook 8. So once again, these moves are um, not easy, and also a bit strange, that you move the rook from a8 to b8, and then you want to place it back on a8. So that is the problem which black has at the moment, and therefore he decided to capture the pawn on d4. So if white takes on d4 with the pawn, then knight e4 obviously wins pawn for black. And I saw this in my calculation, obviously, so bishop d4 was my idea. So now obviously black must capture, otherwise let's say, for example, if black goes rook a8, bishop f6, g takes f6, and this should be lost in not, knight f5, queen h6 is coming. So he cannot allow this, so bishop takes d4, c takes d4. And here it's quite obvious that white is having an excellent position, and the fact that pawn is not on a6 but on a5 makes it hard for black, in the sense he needs to either keep the rook on a8, or play b6, or push the pawn further, and this wastes some tempos. And not only that, but e5 can be quite dangerous pretty soon. So he went a4, and I played just normal developing move rook c1, but also at some keeping an eye on a4, so he can't move the queen yet, and also keeping an eye on c7 by playing rook c1. And I'm preparing to play e5 at the right moment. So d5, I believe this is not a good idea, but on the other hand, I do not have any better suggestions. So I I would say it's in my opinion it is dubious, but there is just the position is quite unpleasant for black here. D5, E5, of course, knight E takes D5 is not even an option, in the sense it's no point. Here, knight H7, I would say from practical point of view, whether it's good or bad, maybe knight E4 could be considered. Although white is pawn up, I can understand it's matter of time. But after knight h7, knight h2, the ideas are like knight g4, knight h5, and queen d2 and knight h6 kind of ideas. So knight g5, knight h5, and now once again knight g4 and knight gf6 for king and the queen. A3. So A3 is a kind of move. If I capture the pawn on A3, so black is hoping for some counter play on the A file to disturb the attack. So in such cases, there is no need to give any counter chances for your opponent. So I just played B4. So it is quite it keeps the position closed, and a3 pawn is something which you can capture at any point, anytime you want. So knight e6, queen d2. Now knight e6 is actually a big mistake, and I was trying to find some idea for black here, but it's not easy, as knight g4, knight f6 is a dangerous threat here. So knight e6, queen d2, and of course now knight g4 with knight f6, and queen h6 is just deadly threat. So he went back, knight g5, and um, well, I mean, obviously, white managed to get the queen to d2, and also, anyway, queen d2 is an useful move, and here already black gave up on his position. But of course, since it's a team event, he would like to, give his best and defend the position. Maybe I will make some mistake, and the fact that his pawn is on a3, and if he managed to capture the pawn on a2, it can be it can create some counter. Knight g4, threatening knight f6 check, queen f5. Although it looks like a mistake, it is not easy to suggest some good move for black here. um, uh, for example, after knight e4, rook takes e4, d takes e4, knight f6 is winning for white, and queen f5, knight hf6. I don't think he missed this. It's just that this is the best way he can create some counter chances with knight f4, knight h3, or knight f3. So king h8, knight e8, rook takes e8, and rook c7. So this is clearly winning position for white, but uh, there is slight difference between winning position and we won the game. And always with knights, one must be very very careful, because of knight f4, or knight f4 knight h3, or knight h4 knight f3 jumps, just like how white managed to create all the ideas here. So after rook c7, knight f4, so black is threatening to take on h3, or even g2. So therefore, a simple move. I mean, there are many moves for white here. If you uh, if you want, I mean, you can suggest some move which is stopping all the counter chances for black here. Well, so okay, yeah, Queen E3 is the move which I played. Probably okay, Rook C3. I think will be met with Knight E4, and after King H2, I guess either Knight F H3 because G takes H3, Knight F3, or Knight G2. King G2, Queen F3 can be quite dangerous. Queen E3 and maybe Rook E3 is possible as well. But I thought Queen E3 is quite simple. Um, the point is, once the queen is on e3 and rook to c1 to create rook c8 ideas. So that's why I preferred queen e3. And now knights are strong on f4 and g5, but they can't really create any threats on f3 or h3. Also, just remove the queen from d2 to not have this fork, queen d2, king g1 fork. And then of course knights cannot really create so many counter chances. So queen e3 is the move which I played, but I think rook e3 should be fine as well. Knight g6, rook c3. So once again, would you take rook b7 and give the rook c8, or you would just go rook c3? Yeah, rook c3 rook c3 is the right move. I played this. Yeah, it's absolutely the point is, of course, rook b7 looks tempting, but even I wouldn't take material in this case. As you know, once you get winning position, your exchange up, your pawn up, you do not want to give your opponent any counter chances, and especially when you're playing against Sergei Karjakin. He is known for um, defense and always looking for some way to escape. So therefore, rook c3 controls d3, f3, or h3. And okay, white is up an exchange and a pawn, and that should be enough. The only thing you need to make sure is this knight jumps. After rook c3, queen g6, he's threatening to play h5. After knight moves to h2, queen g2 is checkmate. So queen g3, and here the rook on e1 is preventing from knight e2 check. And if knight takes d4, queen takes f4. So rook a8. Well, here already he was under time pressure, but in any case, if black plays some move like king h7 or something, white can play king h2 first to move away from this fork, and then he can plan whatever he wants. Rook a8 and king h2, exactly that's what I played in the game. And now of course it's black somehow needs coordination between the f4 knight. Probably if the pawn was on g5, or somehow the knight is protected, then there can be some threats with knight d4. But in this case, just h5, knight e3. If queen checks g3, white can capture f takes g3, or either king g3. Both are winning. Queen h7, that's the only way to keep the queens. Rook ec1, of course, the big threat of rook c8. So queen e4, and now rook c8, exchanging the rook. And after king h7, how would you continue as white here? Of course, black is threatening to take on d4. Yeah. So knight c2. Yeah, maybe it's possible as well. So knight f5, of course not. Queen f5. Rook c1, knight e2 is possible, but queen f3 is simple and good. Um, the reason being, if black takes on d4, g3, and knight on f4 cannot move anywhere because of queen h5. So let's say knight d3, queen h5 is checkmate, and therefore black is forced to capture the queen on f3. G takes f3, and now it black has no more tricks, because once the queen is exchanged, all these pawns on b7, a3 are going to fall, and rook decides, rook will decide the whole thing. So we played some more moves: knight d4, rook c7. It's not important to defend f3, and then you can get into some kind of checkmate ideas. So for example, king g3 does not help in any way, because to start with, he can play knight d2, and if king h2, he can go back, or even play d4. So here d4, so you don't want to give all these options. So therefore rook c7, threatening to take on f7 or b7. B5. Another important point is knight f3 is still not possible because of king g3. B5, rook takes f7, knight d6. Okay, g5 is not possible, and if he moves the knight, knight d5 will also d5 pawn will fall. So knight d6, rook d7, d4, knight c2, d3, and knight e1, just to capture the d3 pawn, and that's the end of the game. And after so this was satisfying victory for me, and nice game in Baku Olympiad. So these are my two victories from Baku Chess Olympiad, and Indian team did very well, and we missed we missed the medal, um, just by you know just by whisker. And all the team members played really well in this Olympiad, and I had two fantastic games, and many a draw against Magnus Carlsen from this Olympiad. So I hope you liked both my games, and yeah, tomorrow I guess there is one more event, and looking forward that you will join me tomorrow as well. Thank you.